This segment is brought to you by St. Martin and Bork. Know your rights.
Hey everybody, welcome back into By Time. Harry McCullough here. Time to check in with Terrebonne Parish and the Sheriff's Office there. Blake Tabor is First Lieutenant. Appreciate you being here. And this has to do with some curfews, after our laws, but a good police work, right, is to make a nice stop where you get a gun that's loaded up like a machine gun off the street.
Absolutely. And look, and this, this one goes back to the old school of police work, right? You just never know what you're going to find.
Right.
So, for what a lot of people don't realize is that, there is curfews in the parks for Terrebonne Parish and also for the city of Houma. And those laws and those ordinances are there for a reason, because typically what we see in our job is anytime someone is at a park late at night, it either has to do with something illegal or something, improper that people are doing that they shouldn't be doing, right? So, again, this night was no different. A savvy patrol deputy was patrolling the area of Bayou Country Sportsplex after hours, where he came across a vehicle parked in a very secluded part of the park. Now, anybody that's been to Bayou Country Sportsplex, you know that there's plenty of parking way out in the open. And if you're there just stopping to have a conversation on your phone or any number of things, you would park right out in the open. This car clearly was trying to hide, and which also sends up a lot of red flags, right? So as the deputy came in close proximity to the vehicle, of course, he began to smell a very pungent odor of marijuana coming from the car and was able to make contact with a couple occupants, both of which were sitting in the back seat of the vehicle as he approached. So the female was ultimately identified as a Zalia Marie Richardson from Houma. You see her photographed here. And the second person was identified as a Jalen Richardson, black male. Now, ultimately, we found during the course of this particular investigation that this person lied about his identity, again, with Zalia going along with this, and ultimately they were able to determine that Shendrick O'Neill Richard was actually the person on scene, which you see photographed here. So ultimately, anytime we have a smell of illegal marijuana or any other narcotics for that matter, that leads to a search of the vehicle. Upon that search of the vehicle taking place, we ultimately located several remnants of marijuana, a nicotine vape pen, and this is the most disturbing of all, a firearm that was changed into a switch, is commonly referred to on the street, which makes it fully automatic. And anyone that knows a fully automatic handgun can be very dangerous, not only for the person using it, but for law enforcement or innocent people as well. So we are very glad that we got that firearm off the street. So ultimately, after that investigation culminated, they end up arresting Shendrick O'Neill Richard on a multitude of charges: TPSO, curfews in parks, resisting an officer by giving false information, possession of marijuana, unlawful possession of tobacco products, which again, you can't have unless you're 21 years of age now, and also handling of machine guns, as well as another outstanding warrant for a weapons violation during the investigation. So he is currently jailed on a $35,000 bond at the Criminal Justice Complex here in Terrebonne. Zalia Marie Richardson was also arrested on curfew in parks, parking in a handicapped parking zone, resisting an officer by false information, possession of marijuana, unlawful possession of tobacco products, and handling of machine guns. She is also remains jailed on a $35,000 bond.
Those switches, they usually get that off the internet, and we can't stop that?
These are things that people can find, right? We talk about this all the time, and I'm going to use a very common example, right? We talk about vapes, and
Correct.
People go, well, they're illegal in the state of Louisiana and a multitude of other places. How are people getting them? Well, of course, people can get on the internet in a number of ways, shape, or form, and they can find these items. And unfortunately, these items to manipulate firearms, common firearms, into these types of things are sold on the internet. Again, should they be selling them? No, they shouldn't, but people find a way to get their hands on them. And look,
They
this
deliver
may
by
have,
mail, though?
it could very well be, but this may not have been a part that was mailed in. This could have been something that was stolen from a multitude of ways, that we just don't know at this point.
No, it just makes everything so much dangerous. And then when you see one used, it's like, there's so much collateral damage to those things that
Absolutely.
it's usually innocent people that are bystanders
Absolutely.
because they can't control where.
And they're never used for good intentions.
Right, exactly. I mean, you're not hunting or you're not, going to the range with that.
Absolutely.
You'd have to have a lot of ammunition.
Absolutely. You could run through some
Which costs a
ammunition
lot.
very quickly.
Yeah, which costs a lot. So with that being said, let's change subjects a little bit. There's a new law in effect. So no more handheld devices. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so look, we kind of alluded to this yesterday with Martin, but starting in August will be enforced. Absolutely no using a phone in your hand for any reason, including talking, text, using of apps, social media, anything while that vehicle is in motion. Violations will result in fines not until January 1st. You'll receive a verbal warning from August of 25 to January 1st. But, this is something that we're taking very seriously. Now, people will wonder, what can I use the phone for? Again, look, if you're using 911, if there's an emergency or you're trying to get in touch with law enforcement or fire or emergency responders, certainly you can pick up that phone and you can make that call without having it on Bluetooth, right? Now, when an officer pulls you over and you say, I was making an emergency phone call, that's not to call your babysitter, right? Because you're running late. So again, you might want to be prepared to be able to show evidence of that emergency that you were calling in. But again, it's going to be a learning curve for law enforcement. It's a learning curve for drivers. And, our main goal is to educate drivers on why this new law is important.
Just not here in your hand. You
Absolutely.
can still have Apple CarPlay or whatever.
CarPlay, a mounting
Waze,
device,
those kind of-
Bluetooth, headphone set, anything of those natures.
I got you. Well, we appreciate it, Blake. Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back with more Bayou Time right after this.
This segment was brought to you by St. Martin and Bourke. Know your rights.